All right, welcome everyone to session 2 of our Castillian campaign. I don't know if we've come up with a name yet, so tentatively, Los Caballeros de Castilla, I suppose. Um, yeah. Does anyone want to volunteer to give a recap for one inspiration
Nose
point?
goes. Oh, in that case, from what I remember, it was 2 weeks ago. We we arrived on a boat, and we arrived at Castilia, where we met with Pharaoh. Did he take us to the guy, the Wolf Man? I don't remember his name. I'm not good with names.
It's all good.
Uh,
So, you guys met a servant of House Villalobos.
oh,
Um, if anyone can remember
shit.
his name, I will also give them a specific inspiration point for that.
Oh, Pablo.
I know it's been 2 weeks. Yeah, no? Adrian, Alex, any takes?
I can't remember.
I don't have
only
it
heard
written
the voice.
down. I was
Yeah.
checking. All I
It's all
remember is
good.
that my statue is called Valenciaga.
Yeah. So yeah, you guys were escorted by Feliciano, is his name.
Feliciano.
Feliciano. So Feliciano walked you guys to the villa of Don Villalobos. Excuse me. That was fucking disgusting, but I guess necessary. Anyway, so yeah, you guys walked to the villa in there, I suppose, as well. He walked you through pretty much what your goal is. Um, you also got to see his son, who was escorted by a couple of guards. This one's an easy one. Who did his son look like? What actor did we use as a reference for
Timothy
inspiration point?
Chalamet.
Yeah,
Timothy.
right. Because because the well's a little dry here, both of you guys can get an inspiration point. And obligatory.
Correction, he looks
So
like the Lizan Al Gaib.
yes, the world. Was it the voice from the other world? Um, yeah. So after that, you guys were given once again instructions and the little statuettes. Um, the statuettes were named after a specific saint. This one is also easy.
Valencia.
There you go, Saint Valencia, Saint of Mercy. So go ahead and give yourself a inspiration point.
What's the son's name?
That's a good question. Not even I remember
Timothy.
that. I want to say Diego. I think unless Diego was. Do you remember, Adrian?
I don't.
No. Oh, shut up! I'm a bad DM.
He was,
Okay.
he was testing you.
Yeah. Let me give him a name. Officially, I suppose. Maybe we'll do that thing where he has two names. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah. I mean, I guess everyone has two names, unless you mean
Oh,
like
you're right. But I mean, like two,
Paul
like first name, middle
Atreides
name, and they call them both.
Atreides.
Not
There you
fair,
go.
dude.
Yeah. So yeah, yeah, we'll go with Paulo. So his name is Paulo Diego, or Diego Paulo. I think rolls off the tongue a little more. So yeah, Diego Paulo Villalobos. That's the name. Got to write it down now, so that I don't get made a fool of again. Trip over my clown shoes. All right. So yes. So he brought Diego Paulo in, and Diego Paulo in Paulo. Wow, Jesus, that's gonna be a mouthful. Essentially, was in trouble for starting a fight. In particular, over someone peddling fake wares. Do you guys remember what these fake wares were supposed to be?
Oh,
This one's hard. I'll say that.
Oh,
weird.
was it Scales of Dragons, and he wanted to test it to see if it
That
would actually resist it?
yeah,
Nice.
that is correct. That is correct. Adrian, you get an inspiration point and bragging
That was a
rights.
hard one.
Yeah, so after that, you guys went to bed. Yeah, each of us, I think, had a moment where we kind of reflected on our character backstories in solitude, as is wont of emotionally distant man. And next morning, we all got together and ate. It's a character arc, right? You got to start somewhere. We all ate breakfast together. Um, so I just realized my mic is facing away from me and probably not catching. There we go. Yes, you guys all had breakfast together. And discussed. We learned a little bit about Gorgoth's culture and their relationship with stone. Alex, is there anything you want to share about that in particular?
Yeah, Gorgoth's people made their armor out of stone. They had a deep affinity for it. He views the statue as kind of particularly sacred for that reason, because it's living stone that can grow. And yeah, he's the only one that believes that, because the rest of them are dead.
That's fair. And there was also a pretty interesting bit about the ocean bed, right?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we made that myth up.
Yeah.
What was it? That the undead were unleashed because someone needed to go to the entrance of the underworld at the bottom of the ocean, and she like killed the Leviathan, and that's what the ocean bottom is.
Nice. Yeah, the seabed, if you will, is a Leviathan corpse. So says the legend of the Goliath tribe Alex is from. Sorry, not Alex, Gorgoth.
Golgoth.
Writing that one down because it feels like it's relevant. Um, all right, yeah, I think that's more or less what happened at the villa. You guys then proceeded into town, and upon which looked for a stable master who looked like Javier Bardem. Um, he then, while discussing a few options with you guys, uh, I believe Gorgon rolled really high in perception with his big old ears, and noticed a thief try to abscond with the funds, right, of the stable master. You guys very quickly sprung to action, and Gorgon, with some deft horse maneuvering, and Gorgoth with some depth. I'm gonna say like people maneuvering. Was able to like fucking smack, tackle a dude off a horse who was gonna try to pick up the funds, and Joseph was able to jump off of his horse, or I say Joseph, Gorgon. Gorgon was able to jump off of his horse and tackle the lady who had run off with cash. So you guys then pinned them down. And Pharaoh dropped the one liner, and the potential third assailant hid in an alley. So with that, we now find ourselves in session. So let me get some last minute flight checklist here. Uh, do you guys have access to the watch together, and is the volume favorable?
I believe that we can each adjust our own volume.
Oh, awesome. That's right. I forget that's a thing now. I was so used to it. What's what I'm looking for? I'm not doing that. Yeah. So it's a lively morning um, in Valencia, and after the commotion, a couple of guards start heading towards you. And once the guards start kind of participating in their duties, you see people begin to go about their regular day. The lady who had shouted by a fruit cart earlier picks up the fruit, puts it back on, and rolls it back out and keeps going. The other lady who was selling shawls kind of comes back out, pokes her head, and slowly starts rearranging some of the things that got moved away whenever she ran in. And now we'll pen over. Each of you guys has one of the thieves apprehended, and I believe last session we ended with you guys looking upon a sigil. Uh, if you guys want to, individually, you can roll for Arcana or Religion, and maybe learn a bit about this.
Like just them two, or
Yeah, since you're a man of mystery at the moment.
You're not there yet. You're one of the thieves, aren't you, bitch? That's a nat 20, my boy.
Woo!
This dice. It's cheating at this
19
point.
for religion.
Nice. Okay. So both of you guys recognize the sigil because it's pretty unique amongst all the different religious iconography. This in particular is a black diamond, and whether through, in fact, I'll let you guys fill in the blanks, right, about how you guys would have come across this info, whether through like studious preparation for the mission, if you had done your research and what the country was like, or personal encounters with this. But the Black Diamond is representative of the Queen of Air and Darkness, aka the. Depending on what edition of deity we're looking at, either deity or not. In mine, she will be a deity. So the deity of the Winter Court, or aka the Unseelie Court of the Fey Wilds. Why humble thieves have this marked on them is up for potentially you guys to discover or not. World's your oyster. So, who wants to go first?
I will.
All right. So, Joseph, the woman you apprehended, you got her pinned down. We'll say the tattoo is slightly below her collarbone that you can now see as you're like kind of. I don't know if you're pinning her, gripping her, grappling, whatever apprehensive maneuver you're doing. But you do see it
I'll
as kind
say
of scuff the close of it.
I'm kind of like full. What do they call it in UFC? Full mount, where I'm like, her legs are behind me, like kind of over her. I'm like pinning
Okay.
her down, like kind of Iron Man, fucking 3-point stance style.
Okay. And she looks up at you with some like a mixture of surprise and resentment in her eyes, and she's like, who are you?"
Law-abiding citizen. um, and what does she look like? Is she like young, old, or?
Sure. So she looks relatively young. I'd probably venture she's. You can tell she's human, right? And she's in about her mid-20s. She does have darker skin. Um, she mostly has fair features, except for if you notice a couple of scars running across right behind her cheekbone. That now that you're up close, you can see, but from a distance you couldn't. Um, yeah, she looks you dead in the eyes, and she has these kind of like hazel eyes that really stand out. And she looks at you and asks who you are, and you say a law-abiding citizen. And she says, she looks over, kind of like trying to tilt her head as much as she can to see where the guards are coming from, and she says, in fact, she's going to roll for stealth to see if she can whisper this to you. Okay, so she gets a 16, and the guards, you don't know, they're far away. She says, yeah, if she says, if you let me get close to the mic for some ASMR action here. If you let me go, I can show you where another stash is. Just pretend to loosen your grip and I'll wriggle out. All it takes.
What do I know about this? Since I rolled decently 20.
Of
What
course.
do I know
Yeah,
about
yeah,
this
that's pretty.
organization?
100%. So you know that the Queen of Air and Darkness, it's almost strange to think that she'd be associated with common thieves, because she is a pretty powerful deity in the Feywilds. She is specifically like, if there's like the Winter Court and the Summer Court, aka they're like the two main opposing factions that operate in the Feywilds, and the Feywilds are essentially kind of split by the influences of their individual like archfey, right? So the archfey, like I mentioned, there are these two queens, but there are also others, right? They're like their consorts or kings and children and so on and so forth. Each of them have like their own little like influence over the area. So imagine like a god's domain, except it isn't closed off. It just kind of spreads out and then eventually merges into something else. So you might have something that's like fall transitioning into summer, and that's more or less how like the Feywild is laid out, right? So these two people are essentially like king and queen. Imagine something akin to like, in fact, it's kind of silly, but it's appropriate. Like Glenda the Good Witch and fucking Elphaba from the Wizard of Oz, right? You have your Wicked Witch of the West and I forgot where Glenda's supposed to be from. It goes to show you. But anyhow, yeah. So that sort of level of like influence over a culture and whatnot, and in the Feywild, it's like godlike power.
Okay. So that these guys are just miscreants, and they just steal on behalf of this lady.
With your nat 20, I almost want to tell you that you could imagine that there's something more because someone as powerful as she would not take time to be indirectly,
Okay.
even indirectly involved with miscreants.
And what is the lady's name again? Let me write it down.
So she doesn't, or her name is like super secret, right? So often they just call her the Queen of Air and Darkness.
Of air, like the air around us.
Yeah, yeah. Air
Okay.
and Darkness, or sometimes known as the Queen of the Winter Court or the Unseelie.
Darkness. Or the Winter Court.
Yeah, Winter Court or the Unseelie Fae. She is, as people would have said 3 years ago, 100% that bitch.
Gotcha. I'd say I don't even respond back, and I to her saying if you loosen your grip, I tighten it more.
Okay.
And
She,
oh yeah, I
your
have a
auto.
fucking I have a Dungeoneer's pack, so I can I'm gonna attempt to fucking uh, put her in on my knee. I'm gonna flip her over, put my knee on her mid back, and fucking arrest her
Yeah,
ass.
make some good old fashioned Texas handcuffs.
Yeah.
All right,
Well,
so
I
yeah,
have shackles, right? Or
oh shit, that's right. In the Dungeoneers pack, is that a thing?
yeah.
It is.
So
I thought you were gonna hog tie her so we could take her to the sheriff.
Yeah.
you're all right, girl.
All of a sudden, there's railroad tracks nearby. No, so you do slap the shackles on her, and she says, "You're making a mistake. I could change your life."
Say, I've heard of the Queen of Air and Darkness before. Not interested. I fucking like raise her. I get more uncomfy for her.
For sure, yeah. And you know, as soon as you drop that line, her body posture changed from one of like resistance to inquisitiveness. But before she even gets a chance to kind of let that emotion guide any other action, you rein it in. That's not what the sound her back makes, but you rein it in. We'll say there's the sound of leather tightening as you grip her in her armor, kind of like you notice that she had armor under her robes, very kind of roguish attire. You tighten it, and you hear her just kind of like wince and go, and eventually the guards make it to you. And before we have that interaction, I'm going to pan over to Alex as Gorgoth. Or sorry,
Yeah.
yeah,
Now you got it.
yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So yeah, featuring gotcha, Adrian. Yeah, featuring Alex Rodriguez as Gorgoth. Or sorry, let me not double name drop you. I'll probably edit that out. But
There's
anyway,
a
featuring
million
Alex
of
as
us. So
Gorgoth.
I don't care.
Gotta put his address on here too.
Yeah. Social security number is no. So Alex, Gorgoth has this dude apprehended who very much. I know we all saw Ironclaw together, right? So he's very much gasping for air. Like that one time the Von Erich brother got slammed on pure concrete, right? So
Oh yeah.
yeah,
And so it's been, I think, less than a minute since I transformed. So I'm still a giant at this point. I still have giant smite up. So he's still
100%.
fucking. I mean, he's not Gundam height, but he's Andre the Giant height, right? He's
Yeah,
about 10 feet tall, around there.
Christ.
So he's leaning down, and he also recognizes this with the 19. I'm assuming as like the organization at least.
100%. Yeah.
Okay.
So you
Um,
recognize this as the mark of the Winter Court, specifically its queen. And even with a 19, I think I'd say much like Joseph, you know that there's something amiss about a common thief having this insignia.
okay. Gorgoth is not necessarily a curious person. I think that his contact with the Winter Court has mostly been through like his education in in the army, where it was kind of like on a list of like unreliable religion. You know, it was probably up there with like Loki, where it's like if you meet someone who's a follower of like the Traveler, some shady shit is going on probably.
Yeah.
So I think that he's going to. He's got hand on the head. He's going to just lean down a little bit, and say, "One reason why I shouldn't unseal your head."
Oh shit!
And he, let me see if he can make a con save and get his breath back. Yeah. He takes a deep. I can make a deal, man. Yeah. What do you want? Do you want money? Do you want info? You can't put a price on good info, right? I'm connected. I know things. You look like an outsider. I can show you the real Valencia. You know what I mean?
Okay, so he's going to say, and I'm assuming he also sees the guards coming.
Yeah.
So he's going to say, "You have 6 seconds."
And he says, "Okay."
Realistically speaking, that's probably how much time he has left as a giant. So at that point,
That's fair. Yeah.
He has to kind of say like to snap or not to snap,
Yeah. So quickly, he's going to say, yeah. He goes, What brings you here to Valencia? I can guide you where you want to go."
The eradication of all undead. And can I roll insight as to his reaction when Gorgoth says that?
Yeah, actually, would you mind repeating that though? I think my headphones are cutting
I'm
off. I might
sorry.
need to swap.
No, he said.
Yeah, no, you're good. It's
He said the eradication of all undead.
oh shit. Okay. You say that, and of course, go ahead and roll for insight.
Fantastic. I got 1. 2 minus 1. I got a 1.
I kid you not, he rolled a 3. So, but it's by a small margin. But he goes, "What the fuck, by yourself?" I mean, and he goes, Give me a day, and I can ask around. And if you break me out of my cell, I'll tell you where to find a weapon to do that."
Can I roll insight as to whether I think he's lying about that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Fucking 0. Okay. So at that, then I will turn, back down to my regular size and just take my hand off, pretending like I stumbled.
Okay. So you're letting him go? Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, basically.
Okay. And the guards come by.
As I fall, I just whisper, "If you do not return, I will kill you."
Okay. So as you release that, he rolls over and then sprints. And I'm gonna see if the guard catches your. Go to roll performance for me, Alex, as you pretended to stumble.
This really is like Iron Claw. All right. I bet. 18.
Okay. So with your 18, you beat the guard's 14, and the guard is too distracted by this guy who just fucking all of a sudden booked it and sprinted from almost like a flat on his back, did a kip up, and fucking ran down the other direction. And you hear him shout, "He's going to the shore!" And he, with spear in hand, tucks it behind him and begins sprinting as fast as he can. And he shouts to another guy. You see, this guy has a plume on his helmet. He shouts to another guy who's plumeless and says, "Grab a horse! Commandeer it and follow me to the shore!" And he sprints over and he begins to kind of like a vault over. He does like a tabletop over an actual table that has some fruits on it. Begins going, and you hear a man shout, "Get nice!" as some fruit falls over, and yeah, boom, they pursue and chase. The other guards who did stay behind get to Gorgon and the woman he has apprehended in cuffs, specifically shackles, and one of them leans over to you and says, "Oh, a forerunner." In fact, do you guys have the emblem Don Villalobos gave you on your person or like on display anywhere?
I'd probably put it on my belt.
On your belt? Okay. So he'll look and he says, "Oh, forastero, foreigner," and he sees your belt buckle and he goes, "You must be one of the what you call them where you're from, the adventurers. Don Villalobos hired, yes?"
It's not.
And he says, "Oh, I guess you're worth every silver piece. This is fine work you have here." And he grabs her, picks her up, right, and hands her over to another guard, who with
Can
another
I try
guard,
to? Well, I'm like, I get my shackles back, please.
oh yeah, and he goes, "Oh, of course they're not cheap. In fact, here," and he hands you some of his. And he goes, "Take some of ours. These are, standard issue, but they have a slight modification." And he hands them over to you, and he says, "These stop the magic we use here in Castilia. It is very rhythm-based magic." And you notice as you grab the shackles, there's a slight vibration that almost feels like a metronome pulse as you grab it. It's like imagine if you ever remember holding it like a switch control and there's like the slight vibrations on it. You know what I mean? That sort of slight shaking as you grab the shackles. And he says, "It's the least I can do. I don't know if there's a bounty on her head, so at least take those in as appreciation for your hard work. Good citizen. Well, you're not a citizen. You're not even a citizen. You're doing better than some of these people."
And he kind of like bows and takes them. So this like an anti-magic shackle situation, or what is
Precisely,
it?
yeah, exactly that, yeah. So this will not if this gets put on a caster and you get both of them to essentially complete the loop, right? AKA the circuit or whatever, it'll stop and interfere with their ability to cast magic. So rules as written will say it'll give them disadvantage on any casting and also on any saves.
Okay. And I'll look at the situation, where Gorgoth is.
Yeah,
See
and you see the
what
guards.
happened.
Yeah, the guards sprint, and Stillguard comes down to you guys, and he says, "Hold on." He goes, "Oh, that was incredible! It's just like the woman said. She told me in the crystal ball that someone would come. It was spoken." And he
I
says,
have no idea what you're talking about.
"Oh, here in Castilia, we have what you would call a soothsayer or a fortune teller."
Oh,
Uh, and he goes on to say, he goes on to say, here in Castilia, and he kind of looks around and gets a little shy. And if you guys want to roll for insight, you can either press what he's shy about, or if not, kind of just figure it out, respect it, whatever you want to do.
I
17
got
for
a 12.
All right. So with the 12, he gets a little frustrated. He goes, "Oh, sorry. Uh, we do not often speak of the Hitania so loudly. There is some prejudice against them. But if you don't worry, you guys were a sign of good fortune, and for that, not only for the help you gave me, but I was also told that it would be a sign that my fortune would turn around and I would prosper. So out of gratitude, I will give you a discount on any horse you buy from me. Not just horse, camel, snake, whatever you choose." And he says, "But, I was asked by this Gitania to have you deliver something to her. She said that you would come and that she would help you on your journey. And I see you have a bright future ahead of you with those skills and that amazing prowess. And you," he says to Gorgoth, he says, "that massive strength. I thought you couldn't get any bigger, but then you did. And you," he looks to Pharaoh and he says, You were there! And Pharaoh kind of laughs and goes, oh, I love being there. And he says, he, he walks over and he pulls out like a sachet, and he hands it probably to, since you caught the thief, Joseph, he hands it over to you, and he goes to Gorgon's hands and kind of shakes it and like with two hands hands it over to you to make sure that you don't deny it. And it is a sort
Well,
of like,
he kind of puts both hands up and says it would probably be in better hands and with Gorg off.
and he goes, oh,
I don't want to besmirch my honor in saying I don't really trust soothsayers where I'm from. They're marks of for the weak. No offense.
and he goes, I understand. Someone who does not know Hitanya culture might not understand the intricacies and how embedded they are into the pulse of life here on Castilia, especially the effects of the Fey Wilds.
Sure.
But I do not judge you for your ways, and I appreciate you not judging me for mine. You seem to at least embody some compassion in that regard. So then, Monsieur Gorgon, yes? And he walks over to Gorgon.
Oh,
Wait,
that's
wait.
me.
Sorry. These are foreign names. I don't mean to be rude. He goes over to Gorgoth. He goes, "You are Gorgoth, correct?" And he goes and hands the sachet to you.
Yeah. What does it like look like? What is it? How does it feel in his hand?
For sure. So he hands you a small little burlap sachet, probably about maybe 3 inches in height. Not too dissimilar to a dice bag, right? But it's burlap, so it's a little rough. And inside it, and you can even smell as soon as he puts it in your hand, it's very pungent. And you get a mixture of various herbs and presumably like some sage and other what's the word I'm looking for? Other arcane adjacent herbs and the like.
I to eat this.
And he says, "Oh, no, 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 please, no. To deliver to." He says, "There is a woman in town. She has a traveling wagon. She's a traveling merchant of curios and other powerful artifacts. In fact, she's almost always willing to trade. Um, but her name is Rocio. She should be down the market square. There is a large fountain. And, she usually likes to park there. She likes, she says the birds really love the water, and she loves her birds. So please deliver this to her and tell her I sent you, and she would also help you on your way. And once you are done with delivering that, doing that small favor, I will have any horse ready for you, ready to go. Like I said, at a discounted price. In fact, math is complicated. Do not worry. I will give you one free horse or one free mount, and we will call that even. Unfortunately, I wish I could give you more, but I also have a business to run. But pick from the litter here, and I will have it ready for you, saddled, saddle included, whenever you're ready to come back. And yeah, do you guys have a specific type of mount you're looking for? We can workshop this a little bit, since I know mounts can go a long way.
You should get the most expensive, sell it, come back and buy 3.
That's, that's not a bad idea, actually.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
so
up for
there are
whatever.
war horses, mules. You guys did see camels. You guys also did see that giant snake that fits multiple people. There's
Which is the one
also
that does difficult terrain or like?
oh yeah, there was a chameleon, or salamander. Excuse me. It was like a large giant salamander that you could ride around.
Yeah, that one would probably be useful. 'Cause I mean, I travel light. I don't really have a bunch of stuff, so that would be my boat.
All right. Also, I just want to clarify that there is a D&D monster that's a salamander. Totally different distinction, because that's a type of elemental. This is just like a fucking wide lizard, if you can imagine.
They're monsters. What say you, Alex?
He's probably gonna go to not the snake, but whatever else is like the biggest one.
All right, so you can ride it.
Accommodate giant size, so it doesn't break the back of the horse with his stone armor.
That's entirely fair.
What a fucking sociopath. But yeah, so yeah, he'd probably pick just anything that looked very sturdy.
Okay, so something sturdy. That is a good. I'm looking up horses that are common in the area that would make sense. Okay, I got it. So I think, or actually, there's two. Let me see which is more appropriate. Let me read a quick description. Yeah, you probably want something like a mountain horse. So let's go with a Galician horse. He goes, oh, this is a purebred Galician horse. You see, it has a really like fine coat that is like a dark brown that gets even darker in the areas where it contours around its like rippling muscles. The horse has almost like a square. You know, horses' snouts are pretty long and rectangular. It almost has a very sharp jaw, almost like the horse is constantly mewing. It is very like strong and stalwart and powerful, and it looks at you. I don't know if you guys or Alex are familiar with the term mewing. I don't know if.
No,
Okay.
I'm
So mewing refers to. I'm trying to find a way to describe. Okay, so you know the stupid like Giga Chad memes where people kind of do the face where they stick their jaw out and like suck their cheeks in to give you that
Yeah.
like to define your
Yeah.
cheekbone.
I know exactly.
That,
what
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the horse is essentially perpetually doing that, and as you approach it, it makes eye contact with you, and give me either an intimidation roll or an animal handling roll.
Ooh. Okay. Intimidation. Fucking 5.
5. Okay. So the horse rolled a 19. As you approach it, as you approach it, it looks you dead in the eyes, and then it just looks through you, as if you don't exist.
Damn. You gotta earn their respect, boy.
See if it keeps that reaction when I fucking get on it.
If I was playing Red Dead, that horse would just.
Oh my god! For anyone listening, Alex did sorry, not Alex. Adrian did a gun motion at assumingly the horse's head. So Alex, yeah, that happens. The horse looks through you. You can either keep trying again, or you can just say you want to buy this horse.
Yeah. Gorgoth will say, my ancestors rode the Ankylosaurus before they became extinct in the region. I will name it Ankh until such time as I can find something better.
You said you're gonna name it Ang?
Ankh, like Ankylosaurus.
Oh, okay, Ang. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, and then Joseph, you went with the salamander, correct?
Yeah.
And statistically, is this a warhorse?
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
So its speed is 60 feet, AC is 11. Is a big boy. And the warhorse would have probably sold for about 4,000 silver pieces, so that it was probably the most expensive one. He'll give it to you for free. Joseph, for the excuse me, for the salamander, he'll probably sell it for 2,000 silver pieces.
How many silver again?
2,000.
2,000. Okay.
Yeah. And for context, you guys are all Yeah.
7,999.
Yeah, how many did we get from the Lobos?
It was 10,000 each.
9. Yeah, 10,000.
Okay, I'll give him 1,000 of mine.
Okay. Just kind of splitting it down the middle, so to speak.
Yeah.
So what?
He's going to give you 1,000 of his.
Yeah, he's gonna help pay
Oh
for the
shit!
coffee.
Thanks, dude. Thanks, pal.
Gorgoth
Right.
says, think nothing of it.
Well, in canon, he says, "You don't have to do that."
That's true. I don't have to do anything.
Damn.
That's fair. I'll repay you.
Yeah, I'll lean over and say, do you want me to take the satchel alone, or shall we go together?
As far as like, this is where we part ways.
And that's where the campaign ends. No.
Great campaign, everybody. Sorry they didn't get a chance to play.
All I wanted to do was get a salamander. I'm like, lead the way.
Okay, I turn to
and
Stilgar and I say, I will need direction.
okay, yeah, he goes, oh, just straight down the marketplace aisle, you're going to see a fork, hang right, and then eventually you'll come across a large fountain.
He nods and goes on.
He says, there is a blacksmith nearby. You'll recognize the pounding of the anvil. And with that, Pharaoh says, fantastic. I think I too will have this horse here. What is this? Andalusian? And Stilgar says, oh, it is a fine eye. Yes, it is an Andalusian breed. I will also have it prepared for you. And Pharaoh's horse is mostly all black horse with is got like the signature little diamond front in the head. And before anyone asks me if anyone ever listens to this, I have no idea if Andalusians come in black, but I don't care. Anyway, so yeah, so down the road, yeah, Adrian, we'll flip over to your character who, if you could describe, he's going to be in the middle of the marketplace, so we'll start off there in the middle of the crowd of this Castillian crowd. They're varying, various colors, and in fact, I think I have like a little picture I pulled up of a crowd. But they're all wearing very colorful outfits. Imagine like you're not quite a Ren Fair, but getting pretty damn close. Kind of outfits. Let's see here. I have a marketplace background somewhere. No? Must have saved it in the wrong format. Okay. Regardless. Yeah, so everyone's wearing very colorful outfits from like bright yellows and reds to greens and some like neat like cerulean blues and the like. Here we go. So, why don't you tell us a bit about your character, what his name is, and how he stands out in this crowd. Or if he does at all, right? Let me not make assumptions.
Yeah. So I guess like if it had to be like Christopher Nolan shot where it's just panning in with him in the center of the crowd around him, he really doesn't stick out. He's kind of you can see some like leather. It's like leather armor, but it looks like as if an armadillo, kind of just like layered. And then on the inside, you can see like some bow ties, and you can see some like chainmail that's been tightly fitted to help keep him like tightened together. But he's wearing like shades of grays, browns, and greens, kind of just sticking to like earth tones, and just kind of just he's feeling very out of place, and he's just kind of watching, and you see like underneath this moss green hood, it's somewhat lavender, maybe a little shade darker a skin tone. You see a pair of sunglasses as he's just looking out and just kind of people watching, just not knowing what to make of all of this. And I don't know. I guess he's just trying to see like to see what this whole thing is about, to see what's the main fiesta of like why are people here? And I mean,
Okay.
maybe I would have heard the commotion like of what happened like with the tussle. I don't know.
All right. And with that, we can also talk about motivation in a bit. But we'll say in your hand, yeah, in your hand is a letter or a summons uh, to the Villalobos villa or the quote unquote like estate or manor here in Valencia. The arrival date was supposed to be yesterday, but unfortunately, due to some unforeseen weather circumstances, your boat arrived a day late. But you find yourself here in town, and you have the option to either reach for the villa or, kind of like I said, take in more of the sights, learn a bit more about Castilia, and you are essentially by a fountain. You hear the rhythmic pounding of a blacksmith going to. I was gonna say going to town, but he is at town. A blacksmith, pursuing his calling, uh, and nearby there is this very colorful wagon, and from it all sorts of strange scents are coming at you. If you're familiar with like the smell of burning incense, there's like different types. You might smell like, maybe like a little bit of like saffron or like other exotic and pretty unusual, or let me say uncommon smells, right?
Yeah.
And there's like draperies all around it, and these like very vibrant, like sea green colors, and then like some like dark crimson red with purple accents here and there. So you can tell this is someone who has like a finer taste for things. And you see, there's a big crowd gathered around this wagon, and there are kids kind of like struggling by, trying to like peek in. There's one kid on top of a crate, trying to look over the crowd, and there's a crowd of mixture of like men and women of all ages. And there are in Castilia, there's a variety of races, right? So you have a predominantly human population, especially in cities, but there are some elves. There's the occasional Eladrin. There is also like a very rare, but a dwarf or two here and there. And you see a woman, essentially, who you can tell is the owner of the wagon, based with how much confidence she's like moving around it and whatnot.
Is
And yeah,
is there like any particular sigil like on the summons? Like, is there anything around me that has the same sigil on it? Like, does this
okay, that makes
wagon
sense.
like
Yeah,
if a
does the
wagon has
wagon
it or
bear
not?
the? Yeah, so the insignia on the or let's say the letterhead that you have in your hand would look something like. Actually, it's like the Discord icon. So it's a wolf holding a ring in its
Oh,
mouth.
okay.
Almost looks like a door knocker, if you will.
Yeah.
Oh, there it is. There you go. Something like that. Um, hold on. Yeah, and as you approach, you see the crowd starts, or not approach, but as you're sitting there taking everything in, you look at the insignia, you start looking around for anything matching it. And go ahead and give me a perception roll, please.
Okay. Mm, where the fuck is it? There it is. Wow. Okay. Perception. That's a 19.
God damn. Uh, so as you hone in with your freaking superhuman-like senses.
Oh, I am a drow, by the way.
Yeah,
If the
you
skin,
described lavender skin. Yeah.
yeah, if the skin tone didn't.
He was dying at birth, dude. He never got over it.
You mean like they dipped in
Died
and
at
died?
birth.
It's his little toesies that are just like a normal skin tone.
Oh my
Achilles,
god.
but with racism.
Oh my god.
You brought it up,
I
bro.
don't know if that's I don't know if that's better or worse for his fate, I guess. Um, who was I talking about? Affirmative action and like anyway, let me not get fucking distracted here. Um, where the fuck? Yeah. So regardless, you see with that sharp 19, you see the insignia on a young man's clothes. If we pan over to Albert Rodeo, I can give you an example of what this man looks like.
Yeah.
Owl bear.
Loading. Here we go. There you go. Let me enlarge that. There we go.
Ooh.
I don't know if that's
Oh,
too
okay.
large.
Sorry.
Yeah, but it is.
Timothy.
Yeah, it is very much a young man with the countenance of Timothy Chalamet. And he is wearing, as you can see here, like some kind of noble armor. You can tell it doesn't get much use, judging by how brand new it looks. And it's more of a fashion accessory. In fact, he does have a sword on his hip with a very ornate kind of handle. If anyone is familiar with fencing rapiers, it has an Agrippa grip, aka like that little fancy swirly grip. And he's standing akimbo with one hand on his sword and the other on his other hip, kind of looking casually and confidently. But there's a look of scrutiny in his eye, excuse me, as he's looking at the owner of the wagon as she performs some magic tricks. And you notice on his arm he's wearing one of those like half capes that kind of comes over, or we'll say it's a full cape at this point. So he's wearing a full cape, and on it is the insignia on your letterhead, the wolf bearing the ring in its mouth.
Right, I'll calmly approach him in a way where, um, oh man, how do I do this? Like, I'm gonna approach like, if he's looking this way, I'm gonna approach him like sideways. I'm not gonna come from behind. I don't want to come up from the front because that's gonna seem like, oh, this guy's coming. This guy's coming towards me.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I forgot to mention, like, so as I'm walking through the crowd, if anything, maybe some people look at me like in disgust because of the way I'm walking. Like, it just looks like I have a huge, like, hunchback as I'm walking towards everyone, kind of trying to mind my own.
Okay. Yeah, so there's this peculiar man who is, as you said, um, dragging around, not even dragging around, but let me say shuffling his way through a crowd, almost as if, the very act of walking and or being in public hurts him and makes it more difficult. So you approach the young man with the Villalobos insignia, and
I'm gonna
he,
approach it with the letter out, so that way he can kind of already see this.
okay, and he looks over at you and says, I You must be one of the adventurers my father hired, correct? I am, and he says, yeah, I am Diego Paola Villalobos. I am the son of the Don who sent you that letter.
Mm. Forgive me, I just saw the insignia.
No, I, I am honored to be my family's representative in this transaction. Um, he says, what may I assist you with, my, my honored guest? And you can tell he's struggling a little bit to figure things out in common. His common probably isn't as practiced as you would expect a noble to be.
Um, I just arrived. My boat went through some rather unfortunate weather. I'm sorry for my tardiness.
And he says, "Oh, I see. That happens sometimes. It can be quite frustrating to deal with, how you say, unprecedented uh, environmental and climate phenomena. I know here in Castilia we deal with the Fae, and sometimes they uh, are not mindful of the impact their fickleness has on our crops and other things that depend on stable weather. So, friend, and he tries to put his hand on your shoulder as kind of like as a show of faith and solidarity, but you can tell he's not very confident when he does it as he puts his hand to your shoulder.
I'll just let him. Just you're committing to this hesitant move. You look funny.
All right. So yeah, and he says, so you are here on behalf of the job, yes, for my father. Are you familiar with the assignment, or shall I walk you through it? And as he's talking to you, he's also kind of looking side eye at the woman who is running the wagon, and you see she begins to like she raises her hands up and turns around, and she's wearing a backpack. And if you want to roll for perception or arcana, you're welcome to.
I'm gonna roll for perception because being from the Underdark, I know not much of what's trickery this is, and my arcana
Ooh.
is shit.
All right.
Uh, Damn, I got a nat one.
Fuck. Okay. Yeah, you don't really catch what's going on. You're more focused on your mission and the young Villalobos in front of you. Um, and the crowd starts kind of exasperating. Or sorry, the crowd gasps in exasperation. There you go. As she, like I said, holds her hands up and begins flying. But you don't know why she's flying because you're not paying attention. You're looking at a young Villalobos who is also dumbfounded, kind of looking away from you, and then goes, of course. I have a duty to the family as its representative here with you. So my father has tasked the other adventurers to um, locate these special holy weapons wielded by the royal guards once exalted into sainthood in order to help fight the the current issues we have. I don't know. You seem to be a drow, correct? Am I making too much of an inference here?
I'm just gonna like chuckle to myself, just like the nostril like exhale.
Yeah.
I just be like, yes, that's correct. Don't
And he goes,
worry, there's nothing. I'm just another person.
oh, of course, I didn't mean to imply otherwise, but I was going to inquire how long you have been on the surface world, because there has been some pretty crazy events over the past few months with, the gods of war assassinating each other, or not assassinating, probably killing each other in combat. You know how it goes. And because of that, there is currently not any deity in charge of the profile of war, hence why weapons are not as reliable as they used to be. When he says this, he very gingerly unsheaths part of his sword, and you see that there's like rust running up its side, and he kind of resheathes it, and he says, because of these, weapons are hard to good weapons are hard to come by. They often shatter mid combat, or even if you sneeze too hard with it in its sheath, and hence the need for exalted or particularly, what we call, I believe, enchanted or magic weapons, right? They have a higher durability because they are also tied into the realm of the goddess of magic, Mistra. They do not suffer the same fate as regular weapons. Um, that being said, we
How
also
long ago
have,
did this happen? Like player to DM.
yeah, played the DM 3 months. He goes, it's been a crazy 3 months,
Oh,
as
okay.
you imagine.
Yeah. Then I probably would have been on the surface way before then,
Okay,
because
so if you want,
I'm
you can cut him off and.
I'm pretty mid-age. Yeah. So as he's
Okay.
continuing on, I'm just gonna just like put my hands out, like to kind of like I've been on the surface for. I'm gonna take a moment to recount. 100 years now.
And he goes, "Oh, I'm so sorry. That's so rude and impudent of me. Okay, I'm so sorry. Of course, you know about the war, the
I'm gonna
gods."
shake his hand and just continue to tell him no. Thank you for informing me, just in case of any new history.
Because of
Thank
course,
you.
and then you also know then about the undead armies invading because nobody can fight off zombies effectively without good weapons and skeletons and the like, and because of that, our neighboring countries have been invaded by necromancer generals, and you also, if you're familiar with the here for 100 years, you know that. I don't know why I said that. I just I
I will note down the invasion because I'm just traveling to this area. This is probably unfamiliar territory to me.
Okay. He's gonna roll for insight to see if he can pick up on that, and he kind of looks at it and he goes, where did you say you hailed from if you are no longer a denizen of the Underdark?
Hmm. It's hard to recount. I made my way for quite some cycles east, and then I came across water and I went north.
Oh,
I can recall.
so you've been everywhere. Have you been to Jolt or Waterdeep or the Sword Coast?
I'm gonna say no. No.
Okay. Oh, okay. That's oh no, that's okay. I'm just curious because I heard so many stories. My dad says if I do well, he will pay for my tuition at Neverwinter College, and I'm excited to study there. But I'm beside myself. I'm sorry. If you want a quick summary of Castillian history, I can definitely assist. And the crowd begins shouting even more as the wagon owner does some other spectacular trick. And there we will pan over to the rest of the crew, kind of sort of like we're emerging through a bit of a crowd as the market. You guys turn and hear the ping of the blacksmith, and you see the described water fountain and the woman that you guys were instructed to find, who is the owner of the wagon, as described to Adrian. And you see specifically, she is wearing a backpack that at this point has furled wings, and she is flying above it and essentially doing shuttle loops, while also here we go. While also breathing fire out, and then she eventually comes down and lands. And for reference, she is a woman. Imagine a sort of like Esmeralda from The Hunchback of Notre Dame, played by Catherine Zeta-Jones. She is a half elf, as you can see here in this background image. Yeah, she's a half elf wearing green with like flowy frilly skirt, large green earrings. You can tell she puts a lot of attention into like accessories and the like. She's got bangles upon bangles, and she's even got anklets. I think is what you call them, like fucking feet bangles. I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, she makes a lot of noise when she walks, and she is up in the air and has definitely caught your attention. And Alex, Joseph, if you want to give me Arcana rolls, you can try to see what's going on.
This cannot be the right place. There was no fork in that road.
Said Arcana?
Yeah.
14.
Nice.
14 as well.
Oh shit! Nice twinsies. So you guys see this?
Gorgon.
Yeah,
We'll
get in it.
Brother.
Brother from another mother. Gorgonzola, I feel like is a good.
Who knows?
Gorgina, Gorgia. Anyway,
Gorget.
Gorget. Thank you. Hell yeah. Yeah. Fuck me. Anyway, so yeah, you recognize the backpack as an enchanted item specifically that allows you as out of character, right? Lets you use the fly spell at will. It does have a certain amount of time in a day that essentially needs to recharge, right? So between short rests, you can fly for about an hour, right? Sorry, long rest, not short rest. Anyway, you can fly for about an hour. And in particular, these wings, and we can, if any one of you guys wants to try to get possession of this, then we can reflavor it one way or another. But for the time being, they very much look like feathered wings. Very, if you've seen like the God of War Ragnarok, like the Valkyries wings, right? Very much like that coming out of a backpack. The backpack does seem to be what we call a portmanteau, aka like stitched from different leathers, and the wings are like popping out from some holes on the side. So, that being said, you see her flipping around in the air, of course, breathing fire. And with a 14 Arcana, you can also glean that this fire is magical in nature, of course, and not some sort of racial trait. So, with that, excuse me, yeah, you see her flipping around, and Pharaoh, holding back a laughter, says, You know, Gorgoth, in Castilia, not all forks look the same. So I think we did cross a fork in the road. And he loses at the end, begins to chuckle.
He nods as if this is sage advice.
And he says, you know, what's in a name, right? A fork by adding in their name stabs just as much food. And then he pulls at his castanets and he slaps him as he's doing slam poetry.
It's correct.
Yeah, so I pause it to you guys. Do you want to approach the woman, or do you want to do anything else in town first? You are by a blacksmith if that's something that interested you. And of course, the world is your oyster.
We see this
Oh,
freakish hunchback.
Hey, you know what? Actually, do a favorite roll perception, yeah. And Adrian, I'm assuming you're not trying to hide, right?
Look at that freak. 18.
Fucking that one, baby.
Yeah, come
I'm
here.
busy talking about forks over there.
Yeah, so you see very much, as Adrian described, his character's visage, right? He's wearing the moss green armor with a moss green hood. He does look in a lot of place. The earth tones are a stark contrast to the bright, vibrant colors of the Valencian people. And more than anything, his posture also, sets him apart, right? I'm vaguely reminded of that Bob's Burgers bit. I don't know if you guys have heard or seen this quote where Bob says, "I think I had a bad childhood," and his wife goes, "Yeah, of course, baby. Look at the way you stand." And he's like, "What do you mean?" And he's like, "People who had a good childhood don't stand like that." So very much all that encapsulated in this Drow's
Yeah, definitely.
physique. I'll see if I can link
I'm
that
just
clip
gonna,
later.
like-
It's great.
I look at him and
Did you just gag in your fucking?
what?
I don't know, because it looked like you said I look at him and I.
Oh,
it's
can
like-
I tell he's a drow?
Oh,
Yeah, well, you rolled an 18, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. You can tell the lavender skin is stands out pretty much, but also like drow tend to have very sharp features, right? So you see that
Okay.
kind of lithe, sharp face, along with the hunchness and the aversion to the
Okay.
sun, as you can tell by his posture.
I hiss and I draw my bow. No, I'm just kidding. I
get it, Susie. You don't like drow.
no, I kind of gesture to Pharaoh and say, "Oh, drow here."
He looks at you and says, "I sense it too," and looks. Draws his sword and no. He says, "No, I sense it too." And am I mistaken, or is he not talking to the Don's son? And you see Diego Paulo Villalobos, in fact, talking to this drow. And at this point, he's got his hand on him, and this is where we'll see that the drow kind of reassures the young Villalobos to kind of like chill out, pretty much. And Pharaoh
He'll be
leans
joining
in
us.
Pharaoh leans into the Gorgos and says, we did not get paid for bodyguard duty, but this is a way to curry favor with our patrons, so I leave that up to you, gentlemen. You seem to be pretty proactive, so.
Oh, like it looks like he's fucking attacking him or what?
No, but if you're suspicious of the drow or not, that's up to you.
Oh, I see, I see, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do my best to sneak up. I'm not gonna do anything. I'm just gonna like try to perceive what they're talking about.
Okay,
And,
so you kind of like.
If I see
What was
him
that
doing that, if I see him going to sneak, I'm gonna walk right up to create a distraction.
Okay. Yeah, so Gorgon is doing the John Wick, using the crowds to move forward and kind of like subtly move along. Yeah, whereas Gorgoth just fucking walks through. You see the armor. I'm very much kind of. I know it's not exactly it, but I imagine like Toph from Avatar, when she's got the full rock suit on. Yeah, he's very much kind of like. You hear the sound of his stone armor clinking against the cobblestone on these streets, and Pharaoh looks at both of you and goes, "I am going to watch from a safe distance." He walks over. He walks over to the fountain and kind of play dumb, and he begins to flip a coin and just kind of chill out there. So we'll say Gorgon, you're making a pretty direct approach, but to say whether or not you get there first, I'll have. Sorry, Gorgoth. Damn, thank you, Adrian. So Gorgoth is making a direct approach. So Gorgon, please roll a stealth roll, and if you roll very high, then I'll say you get there first somehow using
Does he
Batman
get
logic.
advantage because I'm helping him by being a distraction?
Fucking,
No.
Damn it.
what's on that one then?
Oh shit. Okay. So as you're trying to sneak around, you see a woman go, "That's my purse, and I don't know you." And she slaps you gently, and
Oh,
and
diggity. I was
I'm gonna roll to see if I can hear this.
yeah, go ahead.
Can I roll
That's a
stealth
fucking
because I
dirty
have a
20.
distraction?
Dirty 20. You hear this for sure. And even the young Diego turns and goes, "Huh?"
Yeah,
And he
I'll
goes,
kind of
"No."
both look around, like at the
Yeah,
same
and
time.
you see his sword goes, or his hand goes to his sword hilt and says, "Someone is disturbing the base." And
As soon as if I see him go for a sword, I'll just kind of put mine like at the ready, just to like kind of draw.
okay. And if you want to describe me, what kind of weapons does your character use?
So yeah, you really see just you can't see the hilt of his sword just because it's kind of covered by like his cloak that he kind of shutters himself with. But
Yeah.
you do see like the point of the sheath go fairly like close to the ground, and it's not a really wide sheath. It's kind of narrowing at the tip, and so it's just like a what you can assume a very pointy long sword.
Okay. Uh, so with that, yeah, you guys turn over and go at the ready. You see the lady makes a commotion, walks away. Joseph, what is Gorgon's reaction like upon being accused of potentially stealing?
I think his focus is like he's looking at Adrian and Timothy
Yeah.
or Diego, uh,
Oh,
and he's getting hit, and he's trying not to be distracted, but he also wants to be courteous at the same time. He's like, "Ow, wasn't touching you," but he's like trying to maintain his.
Yeah. Is his cover, or are you just going to try to maintain his like politeness or like?
Yeah, like it's okay. Check your valuables. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't
it's all
steal
there, I
anything.
swear.
Yeah. And Joseph, go to roll for insight.
Can I roll stealth since I got a distraction?
Sure. Yeah.
Somehow he's just like fucking big ass guy
Now,
hiding in the
Alex,
crowd.
yeah, is your armor half plate, or are you treating it as plate?
No, it was half plate. Or no, not even that. It was like chain.
Okay.
Because I'm level 3.
Yeah, of course. I just ask because I know some of them give disadvantage to stealth, and I don't. I believe it does. Actually, chainmail does give you disadvantage. So go to roll for stealth, but it will cancel out the advantage. So we'll just do a regular
Oh,
roll.
okay. 16 in that case.
21.
21. Okay, give me a second. Sorry, I had to turn on my fan and then also walk in shame that I referenced a meme that's like 7 years old, or 9. I don't even know at this point. Anyway, so we'll go in order of roll. So Alex, with your 16, you said, right? You're able to kind of pretty, yeah, pretty surreptitiously move through the crowd, and I will let you choose what angle of approach you want to show up and how far from Don Jr. and this new mysterious drop.
I want to come up from behind them and put a hand on each of their shoulders and say, "Gentlemen, I'm on the Brute Squad."
Okay, so you say that, and Adrian, I'll let you describe your reaction after. Or sorry, I'll let you go now, and then afterwards I'll describe the Dons.
Yeah, so when you go to put like your hand on his shoulder,
Like
presumably
gently,
where it should
not like clapping,
no,
not clapping.
no, yeah, but you would feel something sharp and kind of like hard metal, and realize
Ooh.
that that's a shield on his back, and kind of like have a weird grip, and you'll probably feel me flinch, especially feeling the weight of this hand, and I'm just gonna slowly look back and be like, let go of his shoulder.
Yeah, when you put your hand on his shoulder as well, the young Don jumps up and he goes, "That's Pluto!" And he draws his sword out a bit, but he notices who it is after a while and relaxes. And there is tension in the air, and we will resolve that after. Joseph, you rolled a 21, right? You can tell this woman is being a bit histrionic and specifically intentionally. So I will let you roll perception with advantage.
You don't like wood elves, bro, or whatever elves you are.
Damn, I would have. 2
That's with
for
advantage?
perception.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A 2.
Oh, 22.
Oh,
Shit.
okay. I was like, uh, yeah, you notice she kind of looks over and makes eye contact with someone like from the side of her eye and shakes her head. And you see another person kind of look at her, quickly look away, and kind of walk in the opposite direction of where you guys are going.
Oh, they know how to get me. This is a scam, probably.
Yeah, you very much you're in a Red Dead scenario, like my wagon was taken kind of scenario. Yeah.
Right. Do I see Gorgoth or Gorgoth have a handle on that situation?
Roll for insight. And you can do at advantage since you're familiar with Gorgoth and um, kind of familiar with Don Jr.
22 again.
Oh, damn. Okay. Yeah, you see that Gorgoth, as soon as he gets there, Diego kind of flips out, but he calms down as soon as he recognizes Gorgoth. And you see that this stranger, excuse me, that the stranger doesn't seem to be posing any threat as Gorgoth locks eyes with him. And we'll pan back over in a second. I just want to confirm with that, what does Gorgon do? Do you try to approach them, or do you try to do anything further with this lady?
Actually, we got to make sure you're safe. And I fucking grab her by the arm. She knows that I know, like by my grip.
Okay. And she looks at you and she goes, and I'm going to have her do a certain roll for something. Give me an insight roll, please. Or you can do intimidation to counter, but yeah. And she's going to try to essentially... Yeah.
13.
I'm so sorry, my headphones cut off there. What was that?
13.
Oh, 13. Okay. So this woman who has, you can tell, kind of like blonde streaks in her hair. She is a human of probably about like maybe honey tone kind of skin. She has blonde streaks in her hair. She is wearing some fine garb, but as you grab it, you notice that the quality, it looks like fine garb, but the cloth isn't of a fine quality, if you will, right? And she says, she says fairly convincingly, let me say, she says, "If you do it, I will scream, and people around here know me, and you have no idea who my father is."
Oh, does she mean it?
She rolled, and I won't tell you, rather, if I'm not telling you, it's for a reason, so, yeah, you can tell she means it.
Okay.
Or rather, let me say you believe she means it.
Okay.
Oh, pull the trigger. Pull the trigger.
I feel I feel like Gorgon just feels a little heat in his neck, and he's like, "Oh God, I don't want to deal with this shit." I'm like, whatever, and I let her go.
Yeah, you let her go, and do me a favor, give me a flat charisma roll.
Oh, not great. Let's see. It's gonna be a 14.
Okay, that's actually pretty decent. So you lock eyes with her for a second, and she had not really paid attention to your overall like visage and your um, I keep using the word visage today. I wonder where that came from. Anyway, yeah, she kind of takes in your complexion, and you see for a split second, you recognize this. It hasn't happened in a while, but her heart skips a beat as she looks at you, and then kind of shakes it off and turns her back and walks away.
Naked man. Fucking.
Yeah. In fact, do you wear your wedding ring outside of your gauntlets, or how does that work for you?
No, it's very much in there, deep.
All right. Yeah, in the crevasses.
In my clan,
Yeah.
we wear our rings in our pinky toe.
Okay.
I'm just kidding.
Oh, you're
I'm
about to
just
say
kidding.
your cock.
I'm gonna say now you're gonna get disadvantage when you turn left. No. So yeah, with that, we'll now pan over to Gorgoth, who has two men in his grips, and Gorgoth. You do see Pharaoh from a distance, kind of give you like a like everything good look.
Yeah. So I mean, as soon as they like turned, I take my hands off their shoulders.
Okay.
And I give Pharaoh like a quick nod. And I say, is this another relation? Pointing to Adrian's character.
Another relation.
Yeah, and I look at Paolo.
Okay. So Paulo will say, "Oh, he is much like yourself, an adventurer. He says he was delayed by a day because of weather conditions while sailing. Um, he gets a little nervous. He takes a second to compose himself, and he says, "I
I'll
believe
just,
he was in." Yeah,
oh no, I was just gonna say I'm gonna look up at Gorgoth and just be like, my apologies for my tardiness. It's unlike me.
Gorgoth will nod sincerely.
Yeah, I will kind of just like put my sword back down since everyone's cool, man. Everybody's cool. Sorry.
yeah. So yeah, everyone kind of gets the vibe. The crowd starts kind of like looking back, and you see that the lady who was performing essentially has stopped, and hear her say, "Is everything okay over there?" And she begins to slowly walk forward. Her boots that have a small heel kind of make quite a make kind of higher sound as she walks through the cobblestone compared to Gorgoth's very heavy, almost grinding sound of his stone boots. And she goes on to say, I'd feel awful if I continued a performance with uh, anyone in any sort of distress." And she walks forward and she's going to try to get a fix on you guys, so to speak. Bless you, Adrian.
Thank you.
Yeah, Gorgoth will nod and then say, everyone that I have known besides these few is dead, but that is a distress unrelated to your performance.
When you say that, you see the look on her face changes to one of like empathetic concern, and she says, "I am genuinely sorry to hear that. Hmm. Here." She turns around. She tucks her hand behind what seems to be like the wagon countertop, if you will, and pulls out a small bottle. Um, she walks over to you and says, "This one is on the house. It's not much, but if ever you have a hard night, it'll help you get through it." And go to roll for either
Just
history. What's up?
It's just whiskey.
Yeah, I was say history or wisdom, and yeah, it is in fact liquor. But if you get this right, I'll tell you what kind of liquor it is.
Okay, alright. History or wisdom. Gotcha. I don't think that too good in either. Alright, that is going to be history, and it would be a 10.
Okay. So you've heard rumors and stories, but you've never seen this yourself. She hands you a bottle of liquor with a worm in it. That you can only assume is based off the agave plant from the southern regions of Castilia.
Da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah, pretty much. Um, and she looks at you and says, "On the house, please. I'm sorry for your loss, and I'm glad these gentlemen are okay. Um, And she looks at the young baby Dawn, and she says, "You seem important. Are you sure you should be out here?" He stutters and goes, yeah, and he takes a deep breath, goes, "I am observing the local townsfolk as a nobleman, son of a nobleman, heir to the Villalobos house, and I am ensuring that no one is harmed by your spectacles, which are very impressive, by the way, very very graceful. I've seen birds fly with less um, grace than yourself." And he begins to get a little red in the face, and she kind of chuckles and goes, "Oh, I see. Well, I'm glad you are observing from right where you're standing." And she says, "Thank you for coming." And she is going to do a perception check on Gorgon, and she seems to be kind of scanning you guys, but doesn't see anything. She says, "Well, could I interest you in any wares? I sell uh, magic items, as you might have inquired of the sort." And she kind of turns and shows you her backpack, and she says, "I also have other things that adventurers might find useful. Um, in case you are the delving type, I've got some packs and all sorts of things. Herbs that might help you along your journey. Rope. Well, you could never have enough rope." And she smiles faintly. Just, "Oh, and maps, and of course information." And when she says that, she pulls a coin out of seemingly one of her bangles and begins to kind of flip it between her fingers.
Am I
And at this
there?
point, yeah, I was gonna say, at this point we'll say, Gorgon, you joined and you heard most of the last bit of the conversation. We'll say after Diego Paulo Villalobos II kind of tried to not lose face and seem cool, and then tried flirting and didn't do so well.
I lean over and say, like, very audibly, "It seems that the young noble is smitten with the performer, but is quite uncharismatic about it."
And to try to like, I guess, distract her from hearing that so obvious, I'm gonna inquire if she has any books.
Okay. And specifically Gorgoth, who are you leaning towards? We're leaning towards her or leaning towards Adrian
No, I'm
or
leaning towards
Gorgon?
Gorgon to kind of like fill him in.
Okay, yeah, gotcha. And we'll say Pharaoh at that point is also approaching. And you ask if she has any books, and she says, "Oh, an avid reader, I see. I have plenty." Um, and she says, "And I think I'll also have a lantern if you prefer to read by low light." She kind of, you see, she's kind of noticing that you're a drow, and that's where that inference came from.
I don't think a lantern would be necessary, but thank you.
She nods.
And I'm gonna kind of shift like from out of, I guess, the center, because I feel like it's the three of us, her, and then Gorgon coming above or below.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, I just don't want to be rude and give anyone my back, so I'm gonna kind of just like excuse myself to the outside of the circle.
For sure, yeah. You kind of take note of herself, open up the circle so that everyone can communicate. But as you do that, she does walk over to her wagon, and you see she kind of moves a couple of what seem to be like wooden interlocking pins and locks, and opens a small little side door that then turns into a small little two-sided bookshelf. And she says, "Was there any particular subject you wanted to read on?" And she says, "I have all sorts of things: flora, fauna, history, the arcane, the unknown, romance novels. Um, let's call them
children's fables.
Children's fables."
Yes.
Sure. She's going to flip through them, and she says, "Now, unfortunately, I did receive this as a gift from a child for helping her find her lost kitten, so let's say the previous owner wasn't exactly a collector. And she pulls out a book that is, as you mentioned, a collection of children's fables, even with like some illustrations in the middle. But the spine is pretty loose, and there are, which you might assume, are pieces of candy residue on it here and there. Yeah, finders keepers, right? And she says, "You seem like a pretty astute man, a good reader. I apologize that this couldn't be in better condition. So I'll only ask." mm, 5 silver for this.
And I don't know how much I do start off with. I don't know if it would
That's the
just been
point.
less since I haven't met.
Yeah, you haven't met up with everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, we'll say for now, Farrell will be behind you and say, "Oh, you know what? This is a show of good faith if you are our new ally." And Farrell puts his hand kind of gently on your shoulder and greets your shield and goes, "Interesting." And he deposits 5 silver into Rocio's hands as she leans over and grabs it,
Is
and she
this his
says,
father?
"What's up?"
Is this his father? That's Pharaoh.
Oh no, sorry. So Pharaoh is the bard in your party, aka my DMPC.
Got it.
Yeah, because initially
Got
we
it.
started with just two of us. But anyway, so Pharaoh, yeah, you see Pharaoh is dressed in a long black trench coat. I used Antonio Banderas as a reference, so imagine that. In fact, I think I have a picture here. So he's wearing a long black coat over what seems to be hide armor, and he does have a rapier on his hip and a there we go. You can't really see, but regardless, yeah, he has a rapier on his hip, and he approaches, and you see he tucks away a set of castanets inside of his coat pocket. And when he does that, Rocio kind of locks eyes with him, and then looks at the silver and says, "Oh, uh, thank you. Are you also an avid reader?" And Pharaoh says, "I was once. I do not have the time for it anymore. You know how it goes." And she kind of looks at him and says, "I see." And if you want, Adrian, go to roll for insight.
Ooh, okay. That's a 21.
You can see that Pharaoh is kind of holding back an emotion, almost like a sense of like sorrow or longing, as he's looking at the children's book in your hand.
Mhm. Got
And
it.
he says, that's a good one." And he says, I believe I am to be your cohort or an associate. I am Ferro Revaldi." And he hands out or he sticks up his hand to shake yours.
But do the same. I will greet him and just bow my head. It's good to meet you. Sorry I came in late.
So when you bow, do you shake his hand too and then bow, or do you just bow in response to the handshake?
No, I shake and I kind of just
Oh, okay,
lower my
okay.
bow.
Just establishing cultural norms here. Yeah, so he gives you a pretty welcoming handshake with a decent amount of firmness, but more than anything, he's more receiving than he is giving, right? And at this point, the rest of the party, if you guys want, you can either join up or you can have some questions for Diego if you guys are interested in whatever direction you want to go.
We give the sachet to Rocio.
Okay. So you approach Rocio and you give her the sachet, and she says, "Oh, you must be friends of Stilgar."
Stilgar sends his regard.
And she smiles. She smiles. She kind of almost gets like a shit-eating grin on her face as she tosses it up, and she says, "I bet he does. That must also mean that you are his good fortune, and in turn, my I'm gonna say my recharge. As you might have noticed from my attire, or maybe you don't know if you are foreigners." And she kind of looks at all of you and realizes who she's talking to. She looks at Pharaoh, and kind of nods, and she says, "I'm not sure if your compatriot here has mentioned, but I am one of the Hitania people. We are sort of traveling sorts. We do not stay in one place for too long. We usually work as part of caravans, but I'm a bit of an oddity. How would you say in the common tongue? A bit of a black sheep." And as a joke, when she says that, she has one of those little cups. When you turn over, it makes a little goat sound, except it makes a sheep sound. She goes like, "Bah." She turns it back down. Um,
I'm just gonna give her the
and
1,000-yard stare through my glasses. Be like, excuse me.
yeah, she goes, "Huh, tough crowd." Anyway, so I am here to offer you aid, as I read in a fortune. If you believe it or not, that is your choice, but I use it to guide my life. And you are a good omen for me, so as such, I am to bless you on your path in one way, shape, or form, or give you a boon, right? If you're not a religious type. Um, so I can offer you any of my wares at some for free, some at a discounted price, right? She points at her magic backpack. She pulls open a sort of like an almost sliding curtain, and on it is like a leather roll that has weapons stashed through it. And you see some swords, some spears, shield, some hammers here and there, a lot of daggers. Um, and she says, "I have some weapons, if that is to your liking. Some of which have magical properties." And she points at a dagger, and she goes, "This one is a very storied one." And you see, it's a dagger that has almost a glass handle, and in it is a small portion of sand. And she says, "This one is particularly special, very storied." She looks over, walks over to the longsword, and she goes, "This one here has been reconstructed 4 times." Uh, and she says, "But it has magic property under the full moon." And she walks over and says, "Of course, we also have books. I have some herbs that will help you on your journey." And she pulls out a couple of pipes, and she says, "If you smoke them, they will aid you in either combat or sometimes, let's say, actions like these. Um, I can also provide the maps or information. I will give each of you one boon if you tell me what you seek." Don't all jump at me at once.
Well, where's our main mission? Not sure, but tell me more about the hold on. The Queen of the Winter Court, or Unseelie Fae, and her influence in the city.
She looks at you inquisitive and says, "That is a very interesting topic." Um, she looks around and says, "Come here." And she draws a curtain from the wagon to kind of give you a modicum of privacy. And she says, "The Unseelie Court usually operates in shadows and whispers. They tend to be very aggressive when it comes to attacking travelers on the roads or uh, hosting territory. Their main center of influence here in Castilia is the Galician mountains to the northwest, but they have spread their influence quite far and have small splinter cells throughout the various cities. I travel myself, so I'm not too sure the extent to which it is spread here in Valencia, but from what I do know, they tend to affect politics in different ways. May I ask, if it's not too much of an inconvenience, what made you ask this question?"
We just stopped a couple of thieves who wore her sigil or her mark, and so I'm just curious.
I see. Some thieves. What were they after, if you don't mind my asking?
Some mounts.
Hmm. So this is how you met Stilgar then?
So actually, as we were meeting them, is when we spotted dead thieves and we stopped them. That's when I saw their markings.
Interesting. You recognize the Black Diamond. Okay. I see.
Yes, before I came here, I did a little bit of research on what I could expect, and
Well, if if they have agents this far, or people acting on her behalf, you might be warned. I've heard that the Archfey, the Queen of Air and Darkness, has been known to take or to perform, how you say, contracts with individuals and make them what you would call a warlock, I believe. In fact, this is quite common amongst other Gitania people. Some people who are not so satisfied with the current political affairs of things. She says, "My people are often not treated well in cities, as you might imagine, for a caravanning folk. A lot of distrust. But that
The
is not
difference of culture, I suppose.
definitely. And I will also tell you that if they are this far, then they have some strange goal, but also it is concerning, they probably have more influence. Their agents tend to not stray too far from a portal or an opening to the Fey realm. So I might be careful when you're out and about. Look out for. Do you know what a fairy circle looks like? When you have flowers in a perfect circle, or mushrooms sometimes, usually mushrooms. She
No,
looks
but
at
I
your
do
blank
now.
stare. Yeah, she goes, okay. Sometimes when if you're not familiar with the Feywilds, sometimes uh, it exists as a sort of parallel plane to ours. I've been; it's very beautiful. Also, kind of very strange and wild place. I went in for what I thought was roughly an hour and a half, and it turns out I lost a year and a half of my life. So, time fluctuates. Um, let's just say I
Well, I
lost a
believe we were all sent here to stop the bleeding from the Feywilds, correct?
So that's kind of like a
Um,
sub goal. The main goal is to get the weapons. That's like your primary objective. And
Okay.
Don Yellow was warned you that that's one of the struggles that, like, as a nation, that's something Castillia is struggling with. But that's not exactly your quote unquote job to fix. If that makes any sense. So she says, that seems like a pretty complex thing. Here, and she leans over the counter and says, uh, "This will help protect you from some of the beguiling influences of the Fae." And you are a Fae ancestry as a wood elf, right? So I believe you had advantage against being charmed or frightened, right? But she says, they like to make a lot of deals. Excuse me. And sometimes they will, Jesus Christ, I got slimed with the wrong pipe. Yeah, she can tell she gets too close to an incense and she's like, "Oh, I don't know, I should turn this off." She blows it out and says, "Thank you for being patient. This here," and she gives you a small little jar with what seems to be like a grinded powder, but specifically the jar has like rope or twine, sorry, around the top, and it's sort of like a necklace. And she says, "This will glow whenever you are approximating contract terms with Faye. Faye take contracts very seriously, and sometimes you don't get all the fine print when they talk to you. I'm not sure if you hear the rumors about accepting food from Fae and the like, but these are all dangerous things to be indebted to a Fae creature. So take this with you, and it will warn you once when you are entering a contract. And maybe also take
Oh,
this. And she hands you a book on essentially Fae folklore, and you can tell it's volume 1 of 4. So she's like, "It's a start."
I'll tie the thing around my belt. And I'll store the book somewhere.
Nice. She says, "Okay, I believe that is your boon. Congratulations, and good luck on your journey. Uh, and I have a feeling we'll meet again." So said my crystal ball and also my cards. That's very thorough.
Thanks. I was just kind of see myself out of the little.
Yeah, the little tiny curtain. Yeah, and she draws it back and
Yeah.
she says, "Okay, which which one of you other fine men? What's up?"
I forgot that that was all behind a curtain.
Yeah. uh, so she's okay. Which other of you fine men would like to come and receive your boon?
Oh, I figured the book was just the boon I got. I don't know.
Oh, okay. I just oh you paid silver for that. I can give you something else if you prefer.
I mean, if anything, maybe I'll just take an extra weapon, just because knowing what's been happening.
Okay, for sure. And she says, "Yeah, you definitely can't have enough." And she pulls a mace and probably a short sword, or you use long swords, right? So she'll pull out a mace and a long sword and say, "Take a pick."
I'll kind of just like I don't. A mace is too dirty, so I'll just kind of grab it and yeah, I'll just. Is there anything particular about it? Is it just a regular longsword?
Yeah, we'll say this is the one that she mentioned has a special property in the moonlight. She says we'll have to
Okay.
wait and see. Or you can try to roll for Arcana. Or if you have access to the Identify spell, that can also work and tell you what this does.
I don't know if I do actually, and if I did, I'll be honest, I didn't prepare it. Yeah, I don't think I do. Because what is it? Identify level 2?
Identify is level 1, I believe. And it's a ritual if you have access to ritual casting.
Oh, no, I don't. Because I'm not that kind of cleric.
It's all good, yeah. I just
But
imagine your drow is doing the hands in the pocket Kevin James thing.
yeah. So as she hands it to me, like, thank you. I'll if we are fated to see each other again, I'll let you know how it is.
All right.
And
And
yeah,
she
you
says,
see me kind of go to sheath it, and I just put it away.
okay. And yeah, and feel free to add that to your character sheet. And it is a longsword, so it is a D8 and then D10. And actually, this is a good time to talk about how we were going to calculate weapon damages, right? So we were talking about when a weapon breaks, and the way I'm going to handle this, I believe, is rolling a 1 on a weapon will essentially break that weapon, and you can repair it if you go to a blacksmith or something like that. But the next time you do that, rolling a 2 or below will essentially be its breaking point, and so on and so forth until the weapon's like dust, pretty much. So naturally, daggers that are smaller and flimsier, right, have a higher chance of breaking, but they're also cheaper to replace. And then I have to figure something out with greatsword since I know they're like 2d6. So I have to kind of workshop that. But for now, I'm probably going to treat it as Eddie 1 will break it, just to kind of have a consistent rule set. But yeah, so with that, that's the gist of how we're going to handle weapon breakage. I'm going to ask everyone to be honest about their damage rolls and kind of, add extra flair to this campaign. So that being said, that's Adrian. That's your boon. And what was your character's name again, Adrian?
It's gonna be Sue Selrick. SO.
He's a boy named Sue.
Yeah.
Oh, name
Nope.
Sue.
Yeah, it was that old song by the bard Jonathan Coyne. I'm going to see myself out, and I think if I get an extension cord, my air fryer can reach the bathtub. Secondly, Alex, it is now Gorgoth's turn, unless he wants to defer to Pharaoh, but it is now Gorgoth's turn to receive his boon from Rocio.
Do you know the services of a good lawyer?
She pauses and says, "In Valencia?"
Yes.
She goes, Yes, in fact, I tend to not disclose any information over orders, but he did place a request for me. If you'd like, I can ask you to do the delivery on my behalf if you want to curry favor with him.
Very well. It is my understanding that we may encounter the Fey kind. They are in the habit of making deals, and it would behoove me to have someone to defer those deals to.
Okay, that checks out. She looks at you, and you see she's genuinely impressed with how you put that together, and she goes, "Wow, that's I have just the thing." She walks over and she pulls out like 3 different things. She says, "I lied, it's several." She hands you she puts a book in your hand and she pops it open, and you can tell the book has been hollowed out to kind of like smuggle or hide things. And in the middle of it is a particular key with some particular kind of ornate filigree on it, and then like a jewel, sapphire encrusted at the very top. And she says, "That's for the lawyer." She closes it. And then she pulls out a small piece of paper and she grabs a piece of charcoal. And she just kind of like throws her hand in somewhere in the wagon and pulls out a piece of charcoal, writes down an address. She goes, "That's his address. He lives on the northwestern side of Valencia. That's the rich people district." And then she says, I don't know if that whisper was heard through my mic, but I'm going to assume it is.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, and then lastly she says, "And this is where the real value comes in." And she hands you two almost jade rocks that are in the shape of ears. And she says, "These are, if you're, I think you call them out in the East, as speaking stones." And she says, "I recommend you give one to your new lawyer friend, and you hang on one to yourself. Uh, these do work across planes, but there is, a bit of shoddy reception sometimes. So if you find yourself making any sort of Fey-like deals, you can, phone a friend." What's a phone?
So Gorgoth will go down on one knee and say, "All stones speak to me. Stone that can speak, one not of giant kind. Truly exceptional. I think."
You can tell she has an inquisitive look, as if she's not familiar with your specific tribe's culture and mannerisms, and many Goliath to be sure. And she looks at you inquisitively, curiously, and almost kind of genuinely taken aback as the world around her doesn't exist for a few seconds. And she says, "You are a fascinating man. Probably the most fascinating one on this visit to Valencia so far."
One of a
I
kind
know.
these days.
She reaches back over the bar, grabs a separate drink, and she says, "Okay, someone will have to moderate for you, but here you go." And this one is a slightly bigger bottle. This one has a rose glass kind of top to it. And she says, "That one's a little on the sweet side, so I don't know, save it for a date or, sleepless nights." Um, she says, "I recommend it with sweetbread. Really good. If you're at a concha, find yourself a good concha." And she hands you the bottle. And she says, "What was your name? I believe someone here said Gorgoth. Is that your uh, God-given name?"
Correct.
She says, "Okay. So the gods saw you fit to be called Gorgoth. So I shall remember it. It is an interesting name for an interesting man." And you're still on your knees, so you're probably about just a bit below her eye level. So she kind of like gently pats your shoulder, and she says, "And I recognize a Castillian when I see one. Come here." And Pharaoh approaches and says, "It is an honor to meet you, Mr. Rocio. Stilgar spoke highly of you, and I was impressed by your acrobatic tricks." And she says, "Oh, thank you. Uh, could I interest you in perhaps?" And she gestures to the backpack, and he says, "Hmm, that could perhaps come in handy, but." He gets to tap his nose, and he turns over to the rest of the party, and he says, "What do you gentlemen think? Do we need any other sort of preparation? Do we need more rope? Or anything of the sort that might serve us effectively? Or should I take the backpack with the wings?"
I have everything I need.
Okay. I turn over, or sorry, Pharaoh turns over, and he kind of looks as he stops inquisitively and points at a sword on the leather rack, and he says, "Where did you get this sword?" And it's a ornate rapier with a very particular handle that has a hummingbird body that has the wings kind of floating out as its guard, and its beak turns into the actual rapier as it goes larger all the way through. And she says, "Oh, this particular unit was brought to me by a trader who I believe got it off of the bandit, and I think I heard that that bandit got it off of, I think, a burnt corpse." The Pharaoh looks at her and he says, "And you are a fortune teller, you said?" And she goes, "Ah, so this weapon speaks to you." Pharaoh looks at it for a long time and says, "Yes, I think I will take this as my boon." And you see he pulls it out, and if anyone wants to, they can roll Arcana.
Yeah, I'm terrible, so that's going to be a negative.
It's all good. Was that a nat 20, Joseph? Or was that? I didn't hear you. Nat 1? Okay.
I got a 12.
Okay. So none of you notices, but Gorgoth does. Generally speaking, when a weapon requires attunement, you don't really notice any magical things activate when someone touches it. You notice this Pharaoh grabbed this sword. It almost vibrated slightly, and you sensed like a slight magic pulse through it. And the Pharaoh looks at it. So almost spends a good 20 to 30 seconds kind of looking at the sword, and then finds a way to kind of put it on his sword froggy, which aka like the hip thing, right where you put your sword. And
I lean over
says,
to Sue and Gorgon and say, "He was looking at the sword the same way that the youth was looking at her. This is an unhealthy."
and in fact, roll for insight if you want to, Gorgoth.
In fact, I will. Seven.
It must be a great sword. You don't know.
Yeah.
Right, and with that, you guys are all set. And from there, I think we can head out. And if you want to go see the lawyer, and before you guys go, she says, "Oh, one more thing. In which direction are you guys headed? So I can maybe perhaps, if there are any other Kitanya in the area, I can let them know, and perhaps you could receive a warm welcome if you ever need a place to rest your weary bones. God, coming is so complicated sometimes." Um, and yeah, so I'm gonna pull up the map of Valencia on Owlbear, and kind of run you guys through because we haven't really discussed it. In fact, she'll probably plop it down. She has very much like one of those history class pull down maps on the side of her wagon. You can tell it was like kind of a tapestry that someone made very painstakingly. And she says, "This was taken off of a noble's coffin, supposedly. Not that I know. Allegedly. Sorry, that's the word, right? You know, I should talk to my lawyer friend. Anyway, you didn't hear that from me." And she pats the map and she says, "Can I inquire perhaps the nature of your quest, or perhaps recommend a direction if you so choose?"
Did you change the map on the background or?
Oh, sorry, it's an owlbear, right? Is it still there?
Oh,
Sure. If not, I can change. In fact, here, let me change my background here on my web cam. Once I find it. Oh, I think it's backwards on my webcam, right? Yeah, it looks like it. Yeah, and it
actually
also
no.
doesn't have the.
Actually, I don't think it is.
It,
Like, scoot over to your right. No, no, to your right, to your actual right.
okay, because on my end, it looks like the lettering is mirrored.
Yeah, see, no, it's right.
Hey, really interesting. Okay. Um. Well, you guys are. Let me duck. I'm gonna have to like weatherman this shit. Here. So you guys are essentially, because I think I'm doing this correctly. Am I on the non-Portugal side here?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
You're
know,
in
fuck
like
this.
the
Just go to
Mediterranean.
you're
okay. Just
definitely
go to
right.
Albert Rodeo.
Oh,
That's probably easier. I can use a cursor there.
okay, yeah,
All right. Is everybody here?
I am here.
Yep.
Okay. So Pharaoh will probably lean in and tell her, "We are looking for some of the exalted saint weapons buried in the king's tombs, along with their guard." And she says, "Oh, that's fascinating. A noble quest. If by a chance you happen to find any extra treasure, I will pay a handsome price or perhaps trade for you." But she gestures and she says, "So then, I believe I do have a map yourself." And I think Pharaoh ended up carrying the map too, right? So Pharaoh will pull it out and she marks a couple of things as a favor. She'll mark a few things in Valencia, which you see here are some windmills and sounds good, Joseph. Some windmills and other small towns and things. And she says, "This will kind of help you guide your way out of Valencia. But let me give you a quick rundown of what you're looking at. To the south, we have kind of desert lands. So we have some mountain ranges around here, where we call Las Garras del Cielo, aka some mountain ranges, probably the highest in Castilla that nearly touch the heavens, as it is said. Is called the claws of heaven in your common tongue. Um,
known for having very rich mineral resources. There's a diamond mine there. A bit to the west of that, eventually in the next territory over, we have, as you can see right here, the temple of the Quebra Bestia. I believe you would call it a beast breaker. These are some special weapons wielded by one of the old guards. It is in a very barren desert. I should warn you, if you do go this way, take plenty of water, hydrate, that sort of thing. But these are special weapons. They are what you call a cestus, I believe, is what they're called. They're like strong gloves, and they are blessed with the power of electricity. The saint who wore these, they said he was as fast as lightning, and he's known as the beast breaker for a reason. So they were very effective at stopping weird creatures from regenerating and the like. There's a very bad lycanthropy problem in that era. I mean, there still is, but it was really bad back then. So there's that. To the south is the desert. The closest one here is probably the Temple de la Nocesera. It is dedicated to a saint who used a great axe, right? It is known as the bringer of night, or the dusk, I believe is what you call it. So the dust axe. This temple is located right on the border of two different territories. A river does run through the temple, so expect a lot of aquatic accoutrement. I have never been myself, but I do know a few. She whispers and says tomb raiders who have tried to go on in and say that some of the mechanisms that are pretty complex because they use a lot of water-based movements and the like. Some very complicated engineering. I heard history has it that some gnomes were requested to come in and help design this tomb for the king and of course his royal guard. But anyway, big axe. It does crazy things. I've heard. I don't think it actually brings nightfall, but I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it does sort of like a sort of fiery effect, and also kind of has this tendency to prevent any sort of radiant effects. I believe is what you would call necrotic in your tongue, right? Sort of a thing like that. Up to the north, a little ahead of that, to the northwest, let's say, is the capital, Gran Castillo. So in Gran Castillo is probably some of the finest of anything in the land. Finest cuisine, finest clothes, and she kind of tugs in her robe. She says, this is one of my favorites. And she goes on to say, jewelry, weaponry, some of the most famous blacksmiths of the land are there. And Diego comes up and he says, that's where my sword is from. And he kind of holds up his sword, which was, you can tell, finely made, but unfortunately subject to the rust. And she says, correct, everything is there. And I've heard some engineers are working on exhibits for the Grand Fair, and they are last Grand Fair. This happens every year. It's like an expo where they show new magic and things. And they exhibited what we call a flying ship or an airship. And I hear some Eastern technologies have made their way over and that they're commercially available soon. So if you want to fancy your chance at the skies, you can venture to the capital. But that probably cost you a pretty heavy pouch of silver. Let's see. Lastly, we have to the north. We have a temple of Colada and Tizona. This royal guard was known for using two short swords. A very dexterous fellow. These two as sort of complementary, right? So one is said to do holy powers, and the other does a sort of lightning effect, very flashy. This temple in and of itself is in a deep forest, very, very rich forest. So a lot of people like to say they like to walk around, very peaceful, but they say it is kind of quite dangerous around full moons. A lot of lycanthropy. Lycanthropes is the term, I believe. So a lot of lycanthropes around there. So, bring your silver. And she says, or fire. Fire is always good for anything, mostly. Except water elementals, but whatever. And she says, lastly, at the very far corner, we have the Temple de Misericordio. It is a long sword. wielded by the saint, Valentia herself. It has pretty unique properties. It is one of the few weapons that exists and that can actually remove harm. It is a strange paradox, but it also does ice things. It is unfortunately in the middle of Galicia mountains. Things get pretty cold up there, so bundle up. And this is also, as we discussed, where the Winter Court has their strongest presence here. AKA, this will probably be the hardest dungeon. And she says, so that is the long and the short of it. If you think you have an idea of where you'd like to go, I can send word. I can literally send a bird. And she gestures at a falcon that's just kind of hanging out in a cage, almost kind of dozing off. And she says, I can send word through bird and, maybe perhaps have a warm welcome for you somewhere along the lines. AKA, where we're dropping, boys, so I can prep the next session. So Pharaoh will lean in and say, this water temple sounds interesting, and it is the closest, so perhaps we get the lay of the land and know what we're up against. Maybe we should head here. What do you guys think?
That was Omeraldo. Oh no, I know what you said.
Yeah. So San Emeraldo is a city, and in fact, that's probably one of the better routes you could take. So Rocio will chime in and say, "Oh, yeah, that's a valid point, Pharaoh and Gorgoth, and perhaps you could stop by San Omero and, San Emeraldo. Maybe stock up on supplies and then head over because San Emeraldo does touch the river. You could probably take a boat there and make your trip a little easier." Now, Saint Emeraldo was known as the Saint of Inner Peace, so perhaps you could have a little meditative retreat there. The people there are a bit serious, not a party town like Valencia, but still welcoming. So we're gonna perhaps mark that with a special pin. Yeah. That's way too big. Anyway, cool. So that'll be your next destination. And with that, Rocio says, "Okay, well, I believe I've prepared you as best as I can, and I've may or may not have money riding on you according to the carts. So, be safe, don't die, please. Or if you do die, die well." She kind of like throws her palms up and says, "But I have to be somewhere by nightfall, so I believe this is where we part ways." And she begins to kind of close up the different parts of her wagons, and she says, "But we'll meet again, and if you ever are curious about my whereabouts, wish upon a star." She kind of smiles and puts a bunch of stuff away.
Thank you.
Farrell will then, yeah, oh yeah, go ahead. Yeah, you say thank you, and if you want, you can say more. Sorry, I'm gonna cut you off.
No, literally, that's it.
Okay, yeah, Gorgoth is a man of a few words, but they're worth a lot. So she stops, looks over her shoulder as she's packing, and says, "It was genuinely my pleasure." And she begins to keep packing, and she gets a shawl and kind of wraps herself, and as she approaches the front of the wagon, you see from the other side she draws a mule right around the corner, and she pats it, and she climbs up the wagon and starts moving it. And Pharaoh will turn to the rest of the party and say, "Well, we have a few options. We can perhaps shop around for more supplies. I've heard in this economy we can never have enough swords or daggers. I heard even in some prisons that they stopped trading cigarettes and now they're trading shivs and daggers. But regardless, we can shop around. We can visit this lawyer or anything else in town." And as we say this, Diego will chime in and say, "Oh, that reminds me, Mr. I believe it was Selric.
Yeah, I believe my father would probably want you to have these. And he hands you a coin pouch. You can tell it's pretty hefty. And that'll be your, yeah, that'll be your 10,000 silver to spend on stuff. So, and I don't know if I've mentioned, Adrian. Um, oh shit, I'm sorry, Joseph. For anyone listening to the audio, Joseph has been struggling with mic issues, and that's why he's been silent. Um,
Yeah.
so Diego Paulo will hand you the coin pouch, and he says, "We do not use gold here in Castilia. I'm not sure if you know, but regardless, so sorry for the lots of silver. I know every time we get people from the east, they're like, oh, gold is so much easier to carry, it's lighter, and have you heard of electrum? But, it is a valuable thing for us to have the silver, so um, he
Yeah,
hands you the
just
pouch.
tell him it's there you go.
Oh, we got you, Joseph.
Yeah, we got you. Yeah, I'm just gonna take it and be like, thank you. This will carry me well. And I'm just gonna look at everybody. It's nice to meet you all. I'm sorry that I've arrived late. Suselric, as you all heard earlier. I'm sorry if we had the little weird exchange reading, but I'm friend.
And Pharaoh's like, well, no harm, no foul. We'll see what the journey takes us, and as long as you don't stab any of us in our sleep, I think we couldn't ask for better company. Um,
A race
and
check. Roll insight for that shit.
go to roll for insight, yeah.
No, that's like a 2. +3.
Okay. Yeah, you'll never know. So as Fro does say that, he is kind of rubbing his shoulder briefly, and then he goes on to say, "Well, perhaps we could get moving." And also, how's everyone doing on time? What's our cutoff today? Out of character.
I'm off tomorrow, so
Whenever.
you can squeeze me all you want to.
All right, Alex. I know you're an hour ahead. Do you want to cut it off at around 10 or 10 your time? That is.
Yeah, I think I might need to then. I'm sorry, James. Well, feel free to
There
play
you go.
without me also.
No. This is a natural stopping point. That's why I asked, just to see where to drop teasers and the like, because I know a good DM is a good. Sorry, a GM is a goon master. I ruined the joke. Anyway, so yeah, you guys introduce yourselves. Diego gives you the coin pouch and he says, "Do you mind if I take your letters to my father so I can let him know that you've arrived?" He
Yeah,
takes your.
I guess I'll sign it too, just that way. I don't know if we signed him.
Yeah, some official stuff. Yeah, and he goes, "Fantastic." And he says, "Thank you for giving me the honor of representing the Villalobos household, and thank you for your service." And he does like an about face, and his cape flows, and you can tell he's rehearsed that a few times as he walks away.
And it's
Yeah, yeah. The tip of the cape kind of slowly drapes across your face, uh, like if you've ever been stuck behind like sheer curtains or anything. And with that, we have the rest of the party. You hear a wagon, or the sound of the mule clacking down the line. And I'd like everybody to make a perception check, please.
fucking hell. Okay, 10.
16.
Man, these dice are
14.
perfectly balanced. All right. So the 16 and a 14. Gorgoth and Gorgon. Peaches and cream, match made in heaven. Uh, you guys see the water of the fountain begins to take a peculiar shape. And you can swear that there is a face as the water wharfs, and a face looking at you. If you've ever seen The Abyss, by James Cameron's The Abyss, it's kind of like a weird, kind of like water shaped thing.
Water sausage.
Yeah, not that bad, but yeah, it doesn't stick out that much, but it is sticking out just a bit above the surface level. And you can tell with that level of perception that it is staring at the crowd around it, everyone, and particularly you guys.
Interesting. Would I know what like a water genasi is?
Go ahead and roll for either Arcana or History, whichever you have a higher stat. I am a generous god.
Oh, it's not too good. Gonna be a 11.
So with an 11, you know that they exist, and you probably haven't encountered one in person, but you have encountered other water like creatures, we'll say. Like, let's say there are water weirds and other such things. You don't know what this particular creature is, but you know it is vaguely humanoid. So it may or may not be a water genasi, but you can tell that it is more than anything, it is intently staring at you guys.
And when it saw us look at it, did it like freak out, or did it like it was like more like an animal reaction?
Roll for insight and or animal handling. I will also let you pick between those two.
It's just
That's a
holding
nat
your
20.
gaze, bro. Damn.
All right, did you want to do insight or animal handling?
I'll do insight.
Okay. You can tell as you look at it and lock eyes, it is looking at you with a sort of level of aggression. And once it notices that you noticed it, it actually audibly hisses in your. And there is a slight rumble in the fountain, and you see the water, almost like the Red Sea, begin to part ever so slightly. And as that happens, you see vaguely through the fountain small visage of almost as if you were looking down a well into the sky itself, right? And you see four heads pop their head, four little guys, almost seeming like
Water
gnome,
hydra.
savage, wearing red little hats, and you hear them begin to. And the visage of the water says, "It's time, boys!" And you hear, and they begin to, their little hands begin to crawl off the edge of the fountain, and you hear the screams of the public as they begin to freak out that the water is moving. And there's more than anything that there are weird, creepy gnomes coming through it. Not that all gnomes are creepy. There we go.
They are creepy.
They can be, yeah. But regardless, with that, I think this is where we can end our session for today, as the monsters crawl out. Yeah, and if anyone wants to roll for Arcana History one last time to see if they know what these things are.
Yeah, I guess. I mean,
already
now that
gave mine.
I can hear them, I'm gonna see if I can discern. And I'm gonna go
10
with
history.
yeah, I'm gonna go with history also. Oh, 12 history.
Okay. So with the 10 and 12, you know these things are definitely probably fey in nature, but you don't know much else about them. They just look like rabid gnomes almost. And they come out with you with like various almost like gardening tools like scythes and hoes and pickaxes. Pickaxes.
Throw them hoes at me.
Yeah. What's up?
I said throw them hoes at me.
Yeah, he's gonna throw his gyat back for the Rizzler. It's okay. I have the extension cable like set. Anyway, yeah, and with that, gentlemen, I want to thank you guys as yeah, these things pop off and the crowd goes hysterical. People start running away. A woman trips as she looks back in horror as one of the little gnomes strikes out, and you see as soon as he comes out, he throws a dagger at this poor woman who takes it and falls back. And you hear a man scream, "Esmeralda!" And you hear the gnome go as he comes out. And
He's behind.
lastly, the water takes shape in the form of a bipedal woman with just enough foam covering the naughty bits. And with that, you hear the sound of a rapier being drawn as Pharaoh draws his rapier and takes a fighting stance and says, "Okay, today I will do something." And if anyone wants to drop a one-liner before we close the episode, please do.
Um, Ergon finally just kind of cracks his knuckles, and he's like, under his breath, he's like, finally.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess since I'm gonna get ready for battle now, I'm just gonna pull out like the leather strap I have tying my shield to my back and be like,
Nice.
"That's one wet girl," and I'm just gonna start charging or start walking.
I'm going to activate Giant Smite, and I'm going to say, people are very strange.
Yeah, all right. So yeah, everyone gears up, takes a fighting pose. If you all want to describe your fighting pose, by all means. But I think this is a good place to end our session, gentlemen.
Yeah, that's good.
All right, let me have Craig stop recording. But more than anything, thank you guys for joining me and giving me the honor and pleasure of fucking running this for y'all.
Thank you for running, dude.
Is there